It's been really fun getting to know Nicole Brewster and Renforth Resources. They've been part of our Global Mining Symposium in the past, and it's going to be nice to get an update from Nicole now. Let me tell you a little bit. I'll set it up before we bring Nicole on. Renforth Resources, they're doing what we like, drill, drill, drill. They have an ongoing drill program at their Parbec gold deposit, which is in the famed Cadillac Break. And it's located beside the famed Canadian Malartic mine, which is a pretty big mine. Additionally, the company has its Surimo district project. It's a 260 square kilometer land package south of the Cadillac Break, and it hosts 6 historic polymetallic mineral occurrences, specifically nickel and copper, along with a handful of gold showings. Renforth just completed a drill program to support an upcoming resource estimate, a resource restatement at Parbec, and is also drilling at Surimo as well, where it's had 15 holes return nickel, copper, and zinc mineralization. I'm happy to be joined once again by Renforth's president and CEO, Nicole Brewster. Hello, Nicole. Are you there?
Yep. Oh, great. I'm here. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for having me again.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, and we're looking forward to getting all up to speed on what the latest is with Surimo and Parbec. So I'll turn it over to you and let you present.
That's my pleasure to do so. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining me today. I'm going to share my screen and walk you through the PowerPoint presentation for both. We're going to talk about Parbec, we're going to talk about Surimo, and we're going to actually talk about Malartic West, which we haven't talked about for some time. So Remforth Resources, we're traded on the CSE, the symbol is RFR. We actually also trade OTCQX in the United States on the symbol is RFHRF. Standard cautionary language, you're being given this presentation by the president and you are encouraged to do your own due diligence. So why would you consider to invest in Remforth? And we're going to do this quickly because I got a lot to say. We own several wonderful assets. The main one, our flagship, is our Parbec gold deposit. It's on 1.8 kilometers of the Cadillac Break. It's contiguous to Canadian Malartic Mine, which is Canada's largest open pit gold mine. We do have a May 2020 43-101 resource of 104,000 indicated and 177,000 inferred ounces at 1.78 and 77 grams per ton. Interesting to note that the adjacent Canadian Malartic open pit mine operates at a grade of 1.1 grams, so we are higher grade than our neighbor. We have, subsequent to that May 2020 resource, though, drilled 15,500 meters, and we're still awaiting assay results. We've released about two-thirds of our assays. Got about 20 holes to go. We will be restating our resource later this year upon receipt of all of the assays. So Parbec is our flagship. It's gold in the ground. Our results to date in our drill program, as you'll see later in the presentation, indicate that we will be restating the resource in a positive manner later this year. And we're quite excited to hold this asset. Now I've switched slides to our Surimo district property. Surimo, you'll see later in the presentation, is also contiguous to the Canadian Malartic mine property, and it's south of the Cadillac Break. We're still in Quebec. It's important to note we still have road access. We have road access to all of our properties. Surimo encompasses 50 kilometers of strike, more in fact, of geophysical anomaly, a magnetic anomaly identified or seen in Quebec government geophysics, and it encompasses several polymetallic areas of previous exploration where they outline the presence of nickel, copper, and zinc primarily. They were looking for gold at the time, but we've taken one of the occurrences which had the most work, the Victoria West, which is about 5 kilometers of strike, and we drilled off 2.2 kilometers in 15 drill holes, 3,500 meters. Still awaiting our results. However, we did get visible sulfides in each hole that we drilled. So we're quite excited to see those results. We're in decent financial position. We hold a bit more than $1 million in cash in our treasury, but we also have 12 million shares of Radisson, which is another junior on the Cadillac break, a little to the northwest of us now. And we regard those as a long-term investment, but it could always be cash in our till. And we also regard Parbec as money in the ground, frankly. We have a potential contingent payment in the future, $1.5 million. And, you know, we run the company. I continue to run the company on a shoestring. The CFO and myself get shares in lieu of cash for our salary. And all of our properties are 100% owned. So we don't have any option payments or anything to keep in good standing. It's just our claim requirements. And in fact, most of our properties have work banked on them. So we can really control our spend quite tightly, and we do. Now, the three properties we're going to talk about today, because full disclosure, we have a wonderful little property in Ontario, but it's not in the presentation. It is part of the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. That property is our Nixon Bartleman property, which has been sampled and stripped over about 500 meters. Gold in quartz veining. We've discovered on echelon veins as well. It's had several $1 million spent on it historically. No compilation ever done. So whilst it's perhaps not the most exciting thing, we do intend to do a compilation of all the historic data this year. So that's what I'll tell you about Nixon Bartleman. But we will speak about the properties you see in this map. Parbec on the Cadillac break beside the Canadian Malartic mine. Malartic West we'll touch on very briefly, and we'll speak about Surimo. You will be able to get this presentation on our website if you want to go through it at a slower speed yourself. So here we have Parbec. We are sitting on the Cadillac break, which is the dotted red line. And as I've told you, we're contiguous. We're absolutely beside the Canadian Malartic mine, Canada's largest open pit gold mine. In yellow is our wonderful neighbor Agnico. They are a 50% holder of the Canadian Malartic mine, along with Yamana. Yamana's actually also recently purchased the Camflo block, as well as a property west of Rouen. So they've become a new player in the immediate area. Up here, the other one we have is IAMGOLD with the Westwood Mine Complex. So just south of the Cadillac break, we have our Malartic West property, which I'll speak very briefly about at the end. And then the big boy here is our 260 square kilometer Surimo district property. The blue dots represent polymetallic showings, areas of historic exploration. Victoria West is the 5 kilometer area of interest right here, where we drilled our 2.2 kilometers. We have gold at Parbec, gold at Surimo, and Malartic West, it shows a polymetallic dot. It's actually a copper silver discovery. And there is a little bit of gold at Malartic West. Now, to speak specifically about our flagship asset for a little while, as we await 20 drill holes drilled here, you can see that we are right on strike of the Canadian Malartic mine, and specifically the East Amphi area, which is actively being drilled as disclosed by Agnico and Yamana in recent press releases. So that's exciting. Canadian Malartic has announced, I think they've brought it down from it's now a couple $2 billion. It's quite a bit of money. They're going to go underground. They're going to go underground at Odyssey and at East Gouldie, which is off this map. And they're going to eventually the output from the pit is declining, and it'll pivot to underground. One has to assume that there will be some requirement for ounces during that pivot, as Agnico is stockpiling and has disclosed they're stockpiling low-grade ounces on the Malartic property. So there's perhaps an M&A opportunity as regards Parbec there, but nonetheless, we continue to go forwards with the development of our Parbec asset. This is the 43101 statement with all the appropriate cautions attached. However, we can see from our own work that the 43101 statement is now out of date. The interesting thing about the 43101 statement was it was only based on drilling from 2007 through to 2019. Well, the period 2007 to 2019. It did not include a bunch of drilling, 62 drill holes in 13,000 meters to be exact, drilled in the 80s and the 90s. So in our recent drill program, we twinned some of those drill holes. So the holes which were excluded from the 2020 resource appear here in blue, And our 15,000 meters drilled in 2020 and 2021 appears in red. So the restatement to come later this year will benefit from the red and the blue drilling. Part of what we did in the program in red was we twinned a number of the drill holes in blue. We actually press released one of those twinned holes earlier this month. And we feel, based on visual results and what we saw in assays from that hole, that we'll be able to incorporate the 80s and 90s drilling, bringing a total of 28,000 meters of drilling to our resource restatement later this year. So a brief rundown of why are we comfortable we'll be restating it in a positive manner. Again, I'm going to whip through this. You can find this on my on Renforth's website, www.remforthresources.com. We announced one of our holes, gold intersections in the sediments, well outside of the resource area, possibly associated with an adjacent magnetic feature, but nonetheless, nice grades. And we've actually gone back because none of those samples were constrained. We've done additional sampling. So that'll, we'll be a while waiting for those samples to come in. Here we go. In red is the mineralization being spoken about. So you can see the blue trace is the conceptual pit that goes with the May 2020 resource. And now we're intersecting gold just outside of that resource area. So in fact, it's just demonstrating that the resource will have to be restated. This intersection, 21.45 meters of 5.57 grams, was actually one of the best holes drilled at Parbec and features in the top 10 list of drill holes that I just recently put together. First holes we drilled in the program were kind of funny. We drilled due north, and we intersected more than 20 meters of mineralization. Interestingly, the adjacent hole and a 2018 hole had not even been sampled. So this illustrates where we're seeing new mineralization. We were looking for structures that were perpendicular or cross-cutting the break, possibly not seen in our perpendicular drilling. And what we've done is we've made more work for ourselves, and we've done that in several instances. So as we find new mineralization, we have to go back and do more work. So between our nice intersections, and there are several other slides that I removed from the presentation where we're outside of the pit, or here where we're seeing mineralization not previously seen because it's running alongside our drilling, we do have more sampling to do. But this chart will give you an idea of some of the longest interval. We just drilled it in a 2020 hole where we drilled 49.6 meters of 1.46 grams. Again, higher grade than the neighbor, or where we get the high grade, the 21.5 meters of 5.57 grams and similar. So again, you can go through this slower at your own pace on the website. So now we're going to talk about Surimo. I'm finding I'm skipping slides. Surimo is right here, 260 square kilometers. The geophysical features that total more than 50 kilometers, here's the central band, here's the northern band. They correlate with historic mineralization. In blue is polymetallic and in yellow is gold mineralization. Our focus was Surimo, down here at the western end of the 20-kilometer long central feature. At the eastern end is Colony, which covers about a kilometer and is mineralized as well. Now, we visited, and you'll see on the surface sample slide, we visited Victoria, Lalande, and Colony, and we took samples and we verified the presence of the mineralization. This ground was acquired, announced earlier this year. The vendors did do some surface sampling, and we have not yet been to this showing. However, what we've uncovered in this vast system is we have nickel on surface, we have copper on surface, and we have zinc on surface. These are all grab samples. Grab samples, as you know, are grab samples. They're not channel samples, but we did visit all three areas of interest, and this was enough to cause us to do some prospecting drilling. We used a small drill, thinner core, and we drilled 3 holes at Surimo, sort of towards the eastern end of the 5 kilometers of strike. And what we found was pretty consistent mineralization. In fact, where we find that the mineralization, for example, in the first hole, 22 meters of mineralization and highlights within 0.14 nickel, 0.13 copper. Second hole, 16 meters of mineralization, and then 36 meters of mineralization. And why don't they join? Well, it wasn't sampled. So earlier this year, we went back and did additional sampling. And the same instance in the third hole was only 30 meters long. So we just sampled the rest of it. But you can see that we're getting grades actually a bit better than we got on surface. We got 0.48 nickel over a meter, for example, in the drill core. So in fact, this work was encouraging enough to cause us to go back and drill earlier this year. We did do 15 holes. We were not able to make these holes, and 3,500 meters, visual sulfides in every hole, and we're waiting for results, so stay tuned. I told you I'd tell you briefly about Malartic West. I really did mean briefly. It's absolutely unexpected copper-silver discovery. It came about because SOCAM, who briefly held the property under option, did an 8% grab of copper right in here. Again, a grab is a very, not very representative, let's say. We went back, our own larger mass material grabs came in at 3.5% and lower. And we also did some channel cutting. So we exposed a small shear on surface, some on echelon mineralization as well. We'll be back out here to do some more work later this year. Stay tuned. And that's all I have to say with the time that I have available to me. So Anthony, I think I made it under time, maybe.
Right. That's fantastic, Nicole. Yeah, right on time. Let's dive into it a little bit because it's been fun to see. And what we love is what you've been doing a great job here is you're drilling it. You're drilling it, and to see the progress that you're making is fantastic. I had a few questions for you here. We have one from the audience as well. First off, when we're looking at Parbeck, and now you're showing, I like the cross section of the current open pit, but then we're seeing mineralization below it. And you mentioned Canadian Malartic is now actually going to underground. What do you see as a future state to that? Do you see a bigger pit, or do you see the potential to go the higher likelihood of going underground?
At Parbeck.
At Parbeck, yeah.
At Parbeck, it would probably be the deepest point in the pit right now is only 225 meters. And we know the mineralization extends below that. We know the mineralization goes deeper. Its current program is, as you said, proving that. A lack of drilling is what limits the design of the pit to go any deeper. Right. So hopefully the current program that we just completed addresses that to some extent. I mean, I won't know the answer to that until it's actually done and dusted, so to speak, but I would expect that, yes, that pit could probably go deeper.
Okay.
But it could also be, I mean, East Amphy next door was underground. They did a small open pit when that was historically operated in the 1980s, and then they went underground as well. Parbeck has a decline in place, so maybe you go underground and do some bulk sampling or something. Lots of potential.
And can you remind us, when do you expect to have the restatement of the resource estimate for Parbeck?
That's the big question right now. I've been holding fast to the end of Q2, but I think realistically, I have to acknowledge that it's probably slipping out of my grasp. We're still waiting, as I said, for approximately, I think exactly 20 drill holes, but I'll say approximately because it could be 19 or 21. And I expect we're going to be receiving results at the rate we're going right through May and into June, which would push the resource, if it full 43101 calculation statement, that's pushing that into July. I would hope ahead of that, our guys will be working internally, because I'm very interested in knowing as soon as possible what the geological inventory looks like, but we're looking at July now, unfortunately, Anthony.
Okay. Oh, it gives people something to look forward to. The Malartic West, that's really interesting as well on the copper discovery. Can you just get even more clear exactly where is that situated relative to Surimo and Parbeck?
It's the top part of Surimo.
Okay.
It's slightly west of Parbeck. It doesn't join Parbeck by a matter of maybe 2 kilometers. And it's on the south side of the Cadillac Break. It's about 3 kilometers south of the Cadillac Break, give or take. And it's in the Pontiac sediments. So in fact, Surimo used to be, part of Surimo used to be Malartic West. It was just when it became clear that, well, the first thinking was we had gold at Surimo and copper at Malartic West, so we divided. And then I kept map staking Surimo and growing it. So Surimo encompasses the geophysical trends, and then the little northern bit it remains as Malartic West with the copper silver discovery.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, you could really see that in that mapping there. You really covered that geophysical trend there really nice with Surimo and those extra claims up in the northwest, I guess. Perfect. One from William Dorr in the audience here. He has a couple questions, but they're a little bit related. One, I guess it's around burn rate. Like, when do you think you'll need another capital raise? And he wanted to know your current share count as well.
Current share count, well, I'm going to say it's 255 million, but we have had some warrants and options come in, and unfortunately I don't have that at the tip of my tongue, but maybe it's 257 or 8 million. Burn rate is really virtually, I'm very sincere, it's virtually non-existent. I mean, transfer agent, marketing, D&O insurance, rent. There's no salary component. Everybody is a consultant to Renforth. So with the more than $1 million that's on hand right now, even with planned exploration, I could sit and not raise money probably well into the fall easily. That's if nothing else changes, if no other funding transaction or occurrences come in, then I'd probably be looking at sometime in the fall towards the end of the year.
Excellent. All right, Nicole. Well, we wish you continued success. It's a great story. You've been doing a lot with the drill bit there. So yeah, we look forward to hopefully having you back at another global mining symposium, and you can update us at that time. Especially, it's going to be a busy summer for you with that restatement coming out in July and seeing how this Malartic West develops.
Surimo assay results. We can't wait to see.
Absolutely.
So again, presentations on my website, or you can email me at nicole@remforthresources.com. And thank you very much, Anthony. A pleasure as usual.
Great seeing you, Nicole. Take care.
See you.
Bye-bye.